Morning everyone, it is Wednesday morning, April 8th, 2020. I'm feeling fine, my family is doing well, and I hope that you are safe and healthy too. If anything, I'm doing a lot of daydreaming about getting out there and exploring different places, but aren't we all? Today I'm going to show you some essentials in my cargo area. Some items I've had for only a short time, while others I've had for a very long time. So I have a good idea of how they work and how reliable they are. I'm going to start by showing you my water supply. My water storage solution isn't fancy by any means, and it is very adequate. It's adequate with the assumption that I'm always going to be around a water source where I can replenish my containers with potable water. I would probably describe potable water to be water that is probably safe to drink, but you're not sure. So you use it to bathe, you use it to do your dishes, you can boil it and use it for coffee or use it for cooking. And I store that kind of water in my two 2-gallon Rotopax containers and in my Nemo Helio pressurized shower, which holds up to 3 gallons. For drinking water straight, I always get a couple of gallon containers of spring water from the grocery store. And then I just periodically fill my Nalgene container. So when my water situation is topped off, I probably have a maximum of 9 gallons, which is okay. I use it sparingly, and I'm never off the grid for so long that it's been a problem. What I'd like to be able to do, that I haven't done yet, is have a water filtration system. I don't need an integrated system, but a company called Lifesaver makes a 5-gallon jerry can that purifies water that you can scoop up from a stream. I might go with the bladder from LifeStraw. I like the 5-gallon jerry can a lot, but there's a storage issue. I would have to rethink my setup a little bit to store a container that large in the Jeep. A couple years ago when I installed the Goose Gear plate system and mounted the fridge, I made sure to leave a cavity between the fridge and the driver's side rear fender. And that cavity fits these 2-gallon Rotopax containers perfectly. The only hitch is they are able to bounce back and forth a little bit while I'm driving, which is annoying and makes a bit of a ruckus. So I just jam some material in there to serve as a shim, and that makes it a lot better. Large spring water containers fit nicely behind the back seat against the back of the refrigerator. The Nemo Helio is something that I've talked about half a dozen times before, and I consider this to be absolutely essential. I love it so much for a combination of factors. The price point, it's below $100, it's very portable, it collapses into a very small and light, looks like a stack of pancakes about that tall. It's extremely effective, and it's durable. I've had this for over 3 years. I haven't had any leaks. I store it full of water in my passenger side footwell, and it's brilliant. So you're getting a high amount of functionality and portability for a very reasonable price point. Over the holidays this past year, in 2019, I had a heater installed in the floor of my cargo area in what used to be valuable cargo space. So to make up for that loss of storage space, I installed these Gama Bags by a company called XG Cargo. The bags utilize brackets to mount to the rear portion of your roll bar, and then they nicely fill these cavities, this normally unused space in the back corners of your Jeep. Now, I'm not pleased with these bags, and I'm going to tell you why, but first, I don't want to be unnecessarily harsh, so let's take a look at their merits. The system that they use to install it upright in this corner is brilliant. It really looks like the company put a great deal of thought into that engineering process. They're very elegant, they're well designed, they fit the space perfectly. There's a handy pocket on the front flap for small odds and ends, and These molly loops really add a good bit of versatility, so I can attach my own accessories or use it to store other stuff. They've got a decent capacity, they're very unobtrusive in my application, which was a big part of the initial appeal. The bags are attached to their mounting brackets using Velcro sleeves, so they're removed very easily. There are removable plastic panels that give the bags structure and rigidity. There's also a nice handle, so if you want to take your bag out entirely and walk it somewhere, maybe you're going on a picnic and all of your items are in here. My gripe is that they engineered a handsome, well thought out bag on the exterior, and then they phoned in the design of the interior. So you have a spacious bag that's shaped like a triangle, and one of the points of the triangle is oriented straight down. If you don't have sufficient pockets and dividers on the inside, what happens to your items when you put them in the bag? Where do they all end up? So as you can see, there's a good bit of volume in here. I have this bag full of straps and bungee cords, a bag of tent stakes, silky saw, some extra utility cord, torch for my propane bottles, and a couple of Gore-Tex fabric patches. So you have all this usable space, and then you open it up and see there's only these tiny sleeves and netting for thin patches, pocket knives, silverware, utility rope, small items like this. Why? If I want to put something of considerable size in there, it'll fit, but there's no way to secure it up high. You put it in and it inevitably ends up at the bottom of the triangle. How can they fix it? And they can fix it. They've got a great base to build upon here. All they need, in my opinion, are more mesh sleeves like this, but not tight, narrow ones like this one where you can only fit some gear repair items. They need big billowing sleeves. So a big mesh pouch here, vertically across the top portion of the bag, and maybe another one in the middle, large billowing mesh pouch. So that way, when I put my straps and bungee cord bag in, I can put it up top in the large billowing mesh pouch, and it'll stay up there. Propane canisters, for instance, there is enough room in here for them to fit. Again, they end up at the bottom of the triangle. There's no way to separate them, organize them, or secure them. So that's my issue with these bags. This is not the well thought out kit that I like to put in my Jeep. I try to keep the interior of the Jeep modular, which means no fixed drawers or cabinets for storage. I try to think like a backpacker to maximize versatility and to have as few systems physically attached to the Jeep as possible. This is largely due to the layout of the Ursa Minor camper. Since the sleeper is accessed from the interior of the Jeep, I utilize the backseat area as frequently as I utilize the tailgate area. So I need everything accessible on both sides. Furthermore, it lends to adaptability in unexpected circumstances. For instance, if I'm stuck in inclement weather, say there's a monsoon or a snowstorm, I can spend, it's unpleasant, but I can spend the entire day inside the Jeep, relocate the contents of my cargo area to upstairs in the camper or to the front seats, and that gives me as much living space downstairs as possible. Another example might be the accident that I had in Quebec. We needed to access my recovery gear, which was in my goose gear compartment in the back. And I couldn't get the tailgate open because the Jeep was on its side, so I had to rummage around inside, and I was able to shift enough gear around to gain access to my equipment. There's no right way or wrong way to set up your adventure mobile. You just have to do it how it suits you. And the only way to really figure that out is to get out there in the field and just use it and figure out how to arrange things as time goes on. I've actually never done this before, but since the interior of the Jeep is modular, I can conceivably sleep downstairs in the event of inclement weather. Let's say there's a storm passing through and the wind and the rain are battering at the camper upstairs. I could close up the camper, relocate my cargo to the front seats, and get a good night's sleep right here. The last piece that I'm going to talk about today is my ARB 12-volt freezer fridge. Out of all my equipment, I think that this is the one thing that impresses me the most. Why? Because it's around 20 years old, and it just keeps going. Now, the body of this fridge is metal, so this ARB unit predates the current generation of fridges that are made out of sturdy plastic. I'm not 100% sure who makes the refrigerators now, but back in the day, into the early 2000s, they were made by Engel. So this is a rebranded Engel MT35 34-quart 12-volt fridge. It's a single-zone fridge, so you can only either set it to chill or freeze, and it's extremely efficient. It's proven to be extremely well made and extremely durable. I forget exactly what I paid for it. I think it was close to a $1,000 price point. Now you might be thinking, wow, $1,000 for a fridge? And that's a common price point for all quality 12-volt fridge freezers. But consider how well made it is, and consider how long it lasts. With 12-volt refrigeration, it's a prime example of the concept of you get what you pay for. So most units with a high price point are going to be extremely reliable and last for a very long time regardless of brand. Engel, ARB, National Luna, Dometic, Snowmaster, for the most part I believe it just comes down to your own personal preference. This is controlled by a rheostat, not a temperature control, so there's only 5 settings, 1 being cool, 5 being freeze. And I find that it starts to freeze my beverages if I set it higher than 2. I think the rheostat is a little bit flaky nowadays. It feels like it has some dead spots in it, because the fridge kind of stutters when I make adjustments. But nothing has failed me yet, so I have no plans to replace it. Yesterday I came out here and set the rheostat to 4, and I put a single bottle of water in the fridge. Today we have an ice cube. This is the Engel Slide Lock. It's a fixed mounting platform for the Engel MT35 and the MT45. These holes, in case you're wondering, are air intake holes for my Webasto heater. The fridge plugs into my custom outlet using a 12-volt socket. You can plug it into 12-volt DC or 120-volt AC. AC uses the same type of cord that goes into the power supply of a desktop computer. The lid is removable. And so is the basket. And this is handy because you take the basket inside the house and you load up your groceries and come back out and just drop it into the fridge. It also gets kind of gross in here when too much condensation builds up, so you want to clean it out and wipe it down every now and then. And it's about due for that. It's starting to look pretty dank. Yeah. The height of the MT35 is just enough for most 1 gallon and 2 liter beverage containers. It used to have handles, but I took them off because I don't take it out of the Jeep. fridge is gross. Sorry about that. I should clean this stuff before I make videos about it. Engel's website for the current version of the MT35 fridge says that it draws 1 to 2 amps every hour. As far as real-world expectations go, I used to leave this running in the back of my Jeep Cherokee, which only had a single battery and no electrical modifications. But I found that generally it was safe to run for about 2 days without having to worry about cranking on the Jeep. This would always depend on the overall health of my battery and how hard the fridge is running. Maybe if it's a hot summer day, it's running really hard. Beyond that, running the fridge for 3 or 4 days without cranking the vehicle, and you're probably asking a little bit much from the battery. So I know that's not a scientific metric, but it should give you a good idea of how much you can let these things run inside your vehicle. Now in the case of this vehicle, my orange Jeep, which has an isolated dual battery setup and the solar setup, with the dual battery setup, the fridge is connected to the accessory battery. So even if the fridge depletes that battery, I'm still going to be able to crank the Jeep. It'll never prevent me from starting the vehicle. And with the addition of the solar solution, I can leave the fridge run indefinitely without having to worry about any battery depletion, as long as I'm parked in the sun. One feature that most new refrigerators come with that mine does not, because it's too old, is a low voltage cutoff. So when the fridge detects that the voltage from the battery is too low, it will automatically shut off. That's a safety precaution so it doesn't drain your car battery and you don't find yourself stranded at camp. My good old freezer fridge doesn't have that, so it will suck a battery dry if I let it. I think that this is the most that my Jeep has been sidelined in 3 years. Even when I spend the holidays with my parents, I run errands locally and stuff like that, but right now, just staying in place. So that's a wrap for this episode. I hope you found it informative, and there will be more to come. More talk about the Jeep, more talk about my production and planning processes. I could keep going and going. I've been meaning to talk about a lot of these things while on the road, but didn't have quite the opportunity that we have now. Like the rest of you, I'm looking forward to things to return to normal. And when that happens, I'm going to start the next chapter because the mountains are calling, and for now, I'm just letting it ring. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch up with you next week.